Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest instalment of our CarpFix Live. The main purpose of our live feed is to do an interactive Q&A with our members and give you, the member, the opportunity to ask us some questions, whether that's regarding your own fishing, whether it's regarding our films or competitions, or whatever it may be, carp fishing related. We're also going to do the draw, so the monthly giveaway we do every single month, which was the Pure Baits Concepts giveaway. There's 5 bundles worth roughly £100 each, and we're going to draw them not just yet, but later on in the live feed. Also going to tell you about our latest competition, which is for the August members. All of you that have got an active membership during August, and it's still active on the last day, which is the 31st, will stand a chance of winning a set of these Daiwa Bezier SCW QDs. They're a lovely, lovely piece of kit, them, you know, top of the range. Yeah, we just thought we'd do something a little bit special this month. So normally like we do 5 winners of £100 worth, but we're going to do 1 winner wins the set of Daiwa Bezier SCW. So do you want to start with a couple of questions, Scotty?
Yeah, I'll fire up a couple of questions. Just a couple of things just regarding the app. I think it's worth pointing out. So as you can probably see there, you can see yourself, because it's obviously there's a little bit of a time delay, but there's a live chat now that's going to be, not now, but there will be soon. There'll be a live chat below the video player, so on the app, whereas before you had to close the screen down. Okay. So they've made an improvement, whereas if I can show you briefly on here. So you can probably see there, just below, if I go like this a little bit, so just here, soon you'll be able to comment below. It'll be a lot easier for you, rather than before you had to minimise the screen. Little bit annoying. And the other thing...
What's the other thing,
the other little thing is you're going to be able to continue watching. So if you go onto the website, you'll probably be familiar with it already. So you can go on there and continue watching where you left off. So you'll be able to do that on the app. Probably, it's all middle of August now, probably by the end of the month, a couple of weeks. Okay. Might be less. We just got to do some back-end testing, but it's pretty much there, really. Yeah,
it's been one of the things that I've seen it on social media. I've had a few messages from people, a lot of people saying that is one of the things, like how we can improve our app. Obviously, we've got the great download feature, but now having the ability to come off and go back and resume watching your video in the same place, that's a nice touch, and I'm sure lots of you are going to benefit from that.
Right, let's go to a couple of questions. So Mark Anderson has asked, here's a question, as I'll be driving, I think. All right, okay, so he's driving at the moment probably. How do you set up towing a bait boat back from long distance?
Yeah, I don't know how to do that well. I've done it before at Rockford when I was casting my rigs and bait boating my free offerings, and taking the bait boat out on a clip so that I knew it was at the same distance. But you know, when you pull on the bait boat, it never comes in straight. They sort of, especially when the hopper door's down. Once you've dropped the hoppers, you've got sort of like veins down into the water, and it seems to veer. So I don't know the answer to that question, if I'm honest. You can reel a bait boat in, but it's very difficult to do it straight, and quite often you sort of have to adjust with the handset. It depends on the bait boat, depends on the hopper doors, obviously depends on the conditions, but yeah, it's difficult. It's not. I haven't got an answer for that, unfortunately.
Here's a nice little gift we just got through the post. So this, right? This came all the way from America, from Peter Cockle. So,
yes.
Yeah, he's watching at the moment. So thank you, Peter, for these. Yeah, hold these up for you because you're a bit closer there. There's 3 there, so I don't know who the third one's for. But I mean, obviously, I'd like one, and you get obviously one for you.
I'll get one on my tackle box.
So look at that. I think they're really cool.
They are really cool.
Yeah.
They are really cool.
All the way from America. So thank you, Peter, for taking the time to send those over. They made it safely.
Lovely job.
Lovely, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right, let's go back to a little question. So Jack Reed has asked.
Jack Reed?
I don't know if it's the Jack Reed we know.
No?
Possibly. Well,
ESP Jack?
Maybe it is.
Maybe
Who
it
knows?
is.
He says, "Hi lads, when fishing a nice clear spot, are you looking for a spot within that area, or will anywhere do?" So, are you looking to fish in the centre or just on the outside, or not on it?
It really depends on what sort of spot and what it's surrounded by, and sometimes it's more about being close to what the spot's near. If you're close to some overhanging trees and the fish are hugging to the trees, then you'd want to be on that side of the clear spot. Or if you've got when I've used a boat to put my rod in big clear spots before, I've dropped my rig in the middle of it, gone back, and then seen my lead core popped off the bottom vertically. And now, obviously, having had that experience, I always drop on the near edge so that all my line and end tackle is sort of out the way in the weed bed, and you feed the back of the spot and then lure them in away from the line. So in an actual casting situation, it's quite difficult to know exactly what's going on. But what has always stood me really, really well is the better drops. Like cast out, it can appear to land on the same line, on the same distance every time, but from experience, big drops tend to do takes. It's very rare that when you're on fish and you're catching, you get a special drop on a recast and it doesn't go again. It's if you can get yourself in a habit of knowing what that is, knowing what a special drop is and knowing which ones to leave in place, that's probably more important.
Yeah. Richard Day has asked, do you wish you had stayed on the Burfield for the common? Obviously, Simon Scott's just caught that. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's a
Well, the thing is,
would you go back for it? Was the other question.
Yeah, maybe. Obviously, it's a really old fish. So, to start the question to start with, obviously, I joined it when it went syndicate. The first time it went syndicate, fish hadn't been caught for 2 years at that time, and I thought it was an opportunity. Where the lake was going to be quieter because there was only 50 members. And I sort of saw it as a bit of, like I say, an opportunity, and I fished it as hard as I could from April, May and June. Caught relatively well. I think I had 15 fish that spring, and then Dave Lane caught it, and I remember I went back a little bit the next season, and I just got lured away by European fishing and ended up dropping out. But of all the carp, that's the one that irks me the most, the one that stirs me. And at the moment, I'm pretty busy doing CarpFix, working with Corda. But as things pan out in the future, maybe, it's there in the back of my mind. I'd love to have a go, but I've got a good idea of how difficult it is, and it isn't. Most target fish come out 3-4 times a season, and in that situation, I'm going to get it done quick. But the Burfield Common isn't one of them. Isn't one of them.
Cool. Saws has asked, when you're fishing a new lake or completely new swim on an existing lake, at which point do you determine that the spots you've chosen to fish are not going to produce, and what are your next moves?
Sorry.
So if you've rocked up on a new lake or an existing lake and you found a spot, which point do you determine that the spots you've chosen to fish are not going to produce? So if, say, for example, I think he's on about, you've got your rods out on the spot, fished it for a night, are you then thinking the spot's no good, or are you persevering?
It depends on the fish activity in the swim. If the fish are bouncing all over me, or they're showing a favouritism for a different spot, then that might make me feel that spot isn't going to produce. There's lots of things that will make me feel that it won't produce. It could be the depth, it could be the time of year, it could be the conditions. But yeah, the thing that would make me be thinking that it's not a good spot is if the fish were jumping all over it and I couldn't convert it into a take. Then that would be when I'd be questioning it. But it's a very awkward question to answer that. It's a lot of it's down to feeling and lots of outside other things going on. Yeah.
This is a long one. So question on bait. So he's an avid mainline cell user and have been for a while. It's his go-to bait. This is from James Gadd. But on his new water, it's dominated by other bait companies and anglers using them seem to be catching a lot more than myself. Even when I do get on the going swims and when I'm on the fish, as they seem to catch 3 to my 1, even when I do get one step ahead of the fish. It's like they don't want to eat it at times. I've used other mainline baits to the same success. I know it's not my rigs and location, as I pay a lot of attention to detail on this. What would your verdict be on this?
Well, if there's a lot of a certain bait going in, then the fish can tune in on that. That is possible. But there's not many occasions when I've turned up with, if the fish are eating boilies, I can't think of many occasions when my boilies aren't working, and in the case of Cell, Cell's one of the all-time great baits. One of the best things about it is it works year-round. But, like I say, the fish can be tuned into baits by regular feeding. And I have seen that before with Cell. I've seen Essex Manor the fish be so tuned to it that other baits seem to be less effective. But yeah, if you truly believe that it's to do with the amount of bait going in, then you need to get more bait going in yourself, get a few guys on it, or turn to the dark side. There's sometimes if you can't beat them, join them.
I remember at Gigantica, I've obviously been over there quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which. It must have been the krill, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Sticky baits krill. Yeah. Like the guys were on a social, and everyone using that was catching a lot more.
Yeah.
Than everyone else.
I've heard that exact story about the krill at Gigantica working really well. But at Welly, for example, the exact opposite. I know.
Well, the main line was fishing out.
No, it wasn't necessarily.
Natural,
it just wasn't the krill. I know good anglers using the krill there, really struggling. And when they changed from krill to the Manila, so more of not a non-fishy bait, they instantly started doing better. So, there some fish or some waters may have a preference to.
I think you just got to try and be a little bit flexible as well. Just not tie yourself down too much. If it's going to catch you a fish.
Yeah,
I get people that want to be with a bait company and things, but
yeah, but there's rare. I can't think of many times when I've turned up, the fish people are having them on boilies, and my boilies aren't doing it. I can't think of many times that's happened or at all.
Right, Paul Mannon has asked, with everyone spodding and spot fishing nowadays, would you say that you could get better results by spreading boilie with a throwing stick and fishing areas with, say, 5 kilos spread? Or would you go in the same as everyone else on lakes such as Berners Hall, Linear, etc.?
I think when you're fishing for packs of fish, like Berners Hall, Linear, loads of fish, the way to catch is to concentrate them feeding down over your rigs with accurate spodding. I think that's, Tom Maker proves that. That's one of his greatest assets is, he gets his bait over his rigs consistently well and accurately, and it produces time and time again. But, you're fishing at a lower stock lake where they won't tolerate the spomming. The key is being exactly where the fish are and being able to get in amongst those fish discreetly with rigs that present over most terrain and be able to get a little bit of feed in without spooking them can be much more effective. And especially if spomming's been hammered. I quite often find that if you're talking boilies and particles, I find that spomming them sort of loses its effectiveness sort of later in the year, and more of a spread sort of, because I've been hammered on that trap sort of style.
Yeah.
So more of a spread can work well later in the year. But again, it's very circumstance dependent, and without being there, it's hard to give an exact answer.
Yeah. Danny Wicks has sent a message saying that after having a nightmare not getting hookups, after plenty of runs on my local water, changed up and used Darrell's Pecker's Techers combi multi-rig, and since July I've had 6 runs, 5 hookups, and 1 being a PB of 23 pounds 6 ounce. Not a monster, but the confidence I now have in this rig is unreal.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really. It's not it's a combi rig really. The combi rig has been around a very, very long time, so it's not revolutionary. But the parameters and the lengths of the materials I've played with, and I believe it's right, it's correct, and it's I've got silly amounts of confidence in that presentation. And we're going to France tonight, aren't we, Scott?
Yeah, literally. We've got to cut this sharpish.
Yeah,
we've got a ferry to catch.
Yeah, we've got a real big trip we've had in the calendar for a long time, and I've got 5. I think I've got 5 combi multi rigs in rig board all ready to rock and roll. 3 for me,
2 for me.
Scott.
Yes.
Scotty's going to be getting his rods out.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Hi lads, loving the content. Is there any other anglers that you are thinking about getting on board? Also, in what situation would you use maggots, casters and worms? And apart from your solid bag on Peckers Teckers, what's the best way to get them down to the spot? And on that note, what rule do you use for spodding so the bait lands over your clip to a hook bait? There's a lot of questions in there, so go back to the first one, which is there any other anglers that you were thinking about getting on board?
Well, yeah, at the moment we are where we are with Tom and Jacob, but we've just taken on our first employee, so we will probably at some point, once our new employee Ashley's up to speed and able to go out on his own and film, then we might start going out with other anglers. We'd be really open to suggestion from our members who they'd like to see.
Email them.
Yeah.
info@carpfix.tv.
Yeah.
Email. We have put a poll up on Instagram. I know not everyone's on Instagram, so I have got an idea of the names that keep coming up. Not all of them are always going to be possible, but send your ideas.
I've got a few ideas who I don't want to say just yet.
It's nice to know what our members
what they want. I've got a couple of ideas myself, but it's we have to speak to them people, see who you guys want to see. At the moment, we're good, but
we've got a lot on.
But we will. What's the next part of the question?
So the next part was so in what situation would you use maggots, casters, and worms apart from? All right, that's it. In what situation would you use maggots, casters, and worms?
All of them baits, maggots, casters, and worms. I haven't really used. I know they're big at the moment, and a lot of people, good anglers, are terrorising some venues using worm. They're very expensive, £15 a kilo. But I've only used them a couple of times myself and not done too well. And in speaking to people that have done well using them, I probably didn't use them to their best. But maggots and casters I've done really, really well on. The maggot bag deployed, or the caster bag deployed to a jumping fish on lakes with no weed, so lakes that are desert-like on the bottom, is one of my favourite ways to fish, and it just seems to get a reaction. When you put that maggot bag on the bottom, it explodes. It's like a little parcel of just wriggling attraction. It's sometimes when they're off the boilies, that can really just be a game changer. And again, if you'd seen our Farlow's video, that we were spomming maggots, casters, sweet corn, that sort of thing, and we go. If you haven't watched that video, I suggest, you've asked the question of how do you work out the swing back. I really go into detail on that, because you can do sort of little formulas. Do you know what I mean? But if you want to do it with immense precision, then I'll show you how to do that in that Farlow's video.
Right. It's right at the start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much as soon as you get in the swim.
And there's no substitute for putting the float out and watching it. You'll see on the drone it literally lands right on top of it. And that is the key when you don't want to be spomming maggots. Maggots are expensive, and if you're putting them nowhere near your rig, you can have fish feeding for ages away from your hook baits.
Yeah.
And although that's good with boilies, it's not ideal when you're fishing with that sort of bait.
Yeah. The other part of the question is, apart from your solid bag on Peckers Teckers, what's the best way to get them down on the spot?
People seem to think that they really drift, and I know it's casters, depending on what sort of condition they're in, they can sink slower. But yeah, I don't ever think that I do anything to them to make them go down quicker. You could add them to a boilie crumb sort of mix and get the moisture levels right so that it sort of goes down as a lump, but yeah, I don't think they're really drifting that much unless you're fishing in a massive wind. Then I think they're going pretty much straight down.
Danny Wicks sent a message. Danny, if you email info@carpfix.tv, we'll have a look into it for you. Let's have a look. So Daniel Stanford has asked, will there be any Will there be a CarpFix calendar to add to the merch? Second thing, in your opinion, at night, when the weed's taking out oxygen, how far away do you think the carp hold? Cheers and can't believe this month's prize. Yeah, which is talking about the reels, of course.
Yeah, they are pretty juicy.
Yeah.
I might win them. Yeah, again, the question is one of those questions that hasn't got a definitive answer. You know, that yes, weed does take oxygen out during the night, but I've caught in thick weed at night, and I've also witnessed fish moving across into more open areas of the lake. It can really depend on what the oxygen levels are like in the lake at the time. You know, if it's had real hot, still weather, and the oxygen levels are really low, then they might be forced out. The weed bed's really forced out of there to go and find more oxygenated water. But other times, when there's a good ripple on, they can stay in the weed because the water's high enough in oxygen. So again, it's a question that there's no yay and nay. You have to watch what the fish do, and sometimes that you can put the pieces together afterwards by sort of understanding why.
We haven't given any of these away, by the way. Have you been thinking about it?
No, it hasn't even entered my mind, which is a shame because the people that have they've gone.
Daniel Stamford, who did that. I mean, it's quite a good question.
Yeah.
So
okay, that's one.
So that's one. Like,
sorry, guys.
I'm
sorry, guys. I'm thinking about our trip to France. Real apologise.
Just ask another question.
Get another question.
Yeah, and you never know.
Yeah.
So Mark Anderson has asked, how do you set up the bait boat to retrieve it with a spod rod?
We've already answered this question.
Have we?
Was
this early? Is it? Oh, it's the first one.
That was the first
apologise.
one.
Apologise.
Yeah.
Right, let me go on to this. I've got more on here.
Yeah.
Right, let's have a look. Someone's asked. Robert's asked, do you use carbon washers in your Bezier reel?
No. I just use the plastic ones that come with the reels.
Right. Okay. What's that for?
So you can have carbon washers for the clutch,
right?
But I use the washers predominantly depending on the line lay. If your reel is stacking, let me get this right. It's going to push it up. If your reel's stacking top heavy,
right, for the line lay.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, if it's stacking heavy at the top, you put a washer on and it takes the reel up and it'll get a little notch.
Yeah.
So if you see it starts to look a bit. You get funny patterns at the top. If it's like that, then you can add a washer.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Ollie Gale has asked, hi Darrell, do you believe that the carp can see colour? Bright pop-ups have been used for many years but still catch many carp. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's one of those. I don't think it really matters on colour. I think contrast is more important.
Contrast, yeah. I think.
The fact is they can see. And they might not see in the detail that we do, because otherwise they'd go up to a rig and they'd just see it was attached to a hook in some situations and not take it. But on the flip side, they navigate around the lake in the dark without poking their eyes out on zebra mussel infested walls and canals and stuff. So I think that they can see really well in low light, but I think they don't see in the detail. But colour, I don't know, and I don't really think it's important. But in answer to your question, bright pop-ups work because their greatest asset is the carp know that they are there, and that is one of the biggest things. You know, it's the same as marketing. If you're trying to sell something, you have to let people know that it exists, and that's the same with trying to catch a carp. It has to know that the bait is there to want to take it.
Yeah. So Peter has asked an interesting question about a guy that's been in the news a lot recently in the fishing industry, Ian
McMillan.
Yeah, so he says, are you going to do anything to help the fun for Ian? No
one's asked me to do anything just yet. I've seen loads going on, but literally I've been on a family holiday until a couple of 3 days ago. I've literally just landed back in the UK. We're off to France.
Literally in half an hour.
So yeah, I'm not saying I know Ian, as in I've spent a little bit of time with him. Fished Essex Manor with him for a short period, and I had done a slideshow for him once, and he's one of the angling industry's, or was one of the angling industry's nice guys, you know, a genuinely lovely bloke. And yeah, maybe we will do something.
Yeah, I mean,
to add to the to the thing.
We'll have a little. Yeah. I mean, we're going to spend the next week together, so we'll have I have thought about it because you've been away. It's been a little bit. Yeah. I can't ask you while you're away and stuff.
Let's give him a couple of pop-ups for our Ian.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let me. Oh, that was Peter.
Was it?
So Peter who gave. Yeah, Peter. Yeah. So I've got to send them to America now, Peter. Hope they get there.
Expensive to have a pop-up.
Nah, it's all right.
He might win the Bases, yeah.
Peter actually said that one of these is for Tom as well.
Oh, Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did have one here. So this is from Melissa. Has asked, Darrell, don't know if this has been asked before, but who, if anyone from the past or present, would you love to fish with? I think it has, but I mean, it's probably in the archives.
I'd love to have done a session with Rod Hutchinson.
Yeah, he looked a character.
Yeah, he liked to drink. I like a drink. You know, I reckon we'd have had a laugh. Yeah, I'd like to have fished with Rod Hutchinson. Obviously, he's a little bit from before my time as such, you know, but yeah, definitely a character of the game. And from present time, I don't know. I'd like to fish somewhere a bit more Stokesy. Lovely lad, real cool kid.
Yeah.
In it for the right reasons, passionate.
Yeah.
And yeah, just a good company.
Yeah. George has asked, hi Darrell, I only fish 24 hours on my syndicate. I get there at 6 to 7 a.m. Would you spawn once set up, or would you use singles until later in the day?
Again, it's a question that it's hard to answer, but yeah, if you've only got a short period of time, just flicking about on fish can be a great tactic. And I often fish like that when I don't know a lake very well. I find it very hard to commit to a bait in a spot if I don't know the lake, unless it's absolutely loaded with fish. If I know it's loaded with fish, then I'll just pick a spot and fill it in and sit back. But yeah, if you've only got a short time frame, chasing, you know, is always my opening gambit when I haven't got much time and when I don't know the lake.
Mm-hmm. Should we? We've got 5 prizes to give away, haven't we?
Let's do the old.
Just if you go onto the other little sheet I've prepared for you, it's got the order. Well, if we want to do it in that order, but if you want to do it,
yeah, we might as well, because otherwise it's going to be
it'll be a bit messy otherwise.
So yeah, we'll just, because there are different bundles, isn't there?
Yeah. So if we do, those of you who have been on this before, you'll see that I've just put a little pop-up screen, and we'll literally just go through and select a name. So I just need to get the right page up. So what's this first? The first one is for?
The first one is for 5 kilo of Vitamino shelf life boilies.
I'm going to do this a little bit old school. Get a pen. I'm going to get you to write the name. Just because otherwise I might get it mixed up. Here. If I write, just write their name.
Yeah, okay.
Whoever wins.
So yeah, the first winner will win the Vitamino shelf life boilie pack. It's 5 kilos of 15ml boilies, 500 grams of Vitamino prep powder, 500ml of salmon oil, Vitamino active liquid food, 15ml Vitamino cork dust pop-ups, and 15mm Vitamino hard salt cured hook baits.
Cool. Right. So I'm just going to press on this button, and it's going to come up with a new name.
And the winner is
Bradley Strong.
Bradley Strong.
Okay.
And the second bundle is 5 kilos of 15ml amino marine shelf life boilies, 500 grams of amino marine prep powder, 500ml salmon oil, amino marine active liquid food, 15ml marine amino marine pop-ups, and 15ml amino marine hard salt cured hook baits.
So these are all worth around £100, aren't they?
Yeah.
So this is Brian Dixon who's won this one.
Brian Dixon. Okay. And the next one.
We'll do one more and then we'll do 2 in a little bit.
Okay. The next one is for the 18ml amino marine shelf life boilies, and the same as previous.
I think a couple of them are very similar, aren't they?
Yeah. Different size boilies, that's all.
So the next one is Callum Tannock. I am writing these down as well, but it's helpful if you do it as next to the bundles. Okay, should we go back to some questions?
Yeah.
So we've got Bradley, Brian, and Callum. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've all won £100 worth of bait. We've got it here, so we will
post it.
We will ship it out. It won't be this week because we're literally going now.
Yeah.
We'll post it when we get back, so you'll get it in a week and a half. No, probably 2 weeks because we're away a bit longer, aren't we? Yeah. So let's have a look on here. Let me go back to this little page on here. Let's have a look. Okay, so Mark Shoring has asked, currently fishing a tricky water. I've managed a fish from 3 spots using solid bags while using a bait boat. Do you see again using more technical rig like the Combi multi-rig instead? Have you ever dropped solid bags from a bait boat?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it called?
Yeah, but I use the same hooking arrangement as the Combi multi-rig, but it's just a braided section.
Yeah.
I would only ever fish braid inside a solid bag because it needs to be able to crumple up and be loose. But what was the question? Would you use a Combi multi-rig in the bag?
Yeah. So
no.
Yeah, I think
you could use a PVA stick on it.
Yeah, I think that's what he's getting at. The question doesn't.
Yeah, you could do, but the solid bag is underrated because they are fiddly and to get right. But they're a trap. They're a really, really good trap. Your hook link, everything's disguised by the bait. Short hook link, big lead. Carp's in a whole world of trouble when it takes that in.
Yeah. Daniel Howe is struggling to get hang of feeling the lead down and learning what the lake is like. And I end up worrying I'm going to ruin a swim on a day session. Any advice on how I can improve on that?
Yeah, the best way to improve at feeling lead down is to practice at short range in deeper water, because it becomes the difficulty level goes up with distance and depth of water. You know, feeling the lead down at 10 yards and 20 foot is easy. Feeling it down at 4 foot at 120 is very difficult. So you practice at short range in deeper water and build it up, and you'll get the hang of it.
Yeah. And obviously using braid helps because a lot of people, if they just turn up with their fishing rods and using mono, you don't feel as much, do you?
No,
so braid on a marker rod in general, people tend to use a marker rod with braid.
Yes.
To feel the
a braided line will help you.
Yeah. Go to zig bait, pop up or foam. It's from Kieran. I'm going to give Daniel, the last one who did a question, some pop-ups, yeah.
Okay. Give that this last one as well. What was his name?
Kieran.
Kieran, give him one as well.
Yeah. So go to zig bait, pop-up or foam. And why?
I think for all the liquids that you can add to zig baits, I've caught so many fish on black foam at night that I just think the zigs are different. You know, the fish... Everyone seems to say as well that you want the zig just lower than the fish, so they drop down onto it. Yeah. And that was, that's how you would think it would happen. But I don't actually believe that. I think they come up onto them. I think that the key to a zig is that it's just either in the line of sight there or just higher, and I think they accelerate onto it. I think it's the silhouette more than anything. So the attractiveness of a pop up isn't any better than foam. Yeah.
So David has asked, do you think using mallets for bang sticks and bivvy pegs puts the fish on the edge?
But it's
a good old.
Yeah, I've caught carp after people have made loads of noise. I've caught carp when there's been big socials and people playing loud music. But I do find it quite offensive, and a lot of other anglers do it. It's considered poor etiquette to be hammering in pegs unnecessarily. There's not, in all the years that I don't even carry a mallet myself. But in 20, 30 years of carp fishing, I can only ever think of like a couple of occasions where I've I've had to go around and borrow someone's rubber mallet or something, there's usually a way of just wiggling the pegs. I usually try and get the tip of the peg in a little bit, shake my foot on the top, and it's just sort of the shuddering of it tends to get it in. But does it scare the fish? It depends on the venue, depends on the circumstances. But it's more about not offending your colleague, your fellow anglers.
We've got, believe it or not, this is good for us because it means we can go and get a ferry. But the questions have slowed down, and we've got one question left,
Right.
which is it's good and it's bad because it means that maybe these aren't a good enough incentive, but it also means we can go and get a ferry soon. So Darren has asked, I'm fishing a weedy lake that allows braided mainline due to the catfish. Would you recommend a fluoro leader or braid straight to the leader? Also, have you ever had the braid cause damage to the rod eyes?
So no, I've never had braid cause damage to the rod eyes. And would I use a fluorocarbon leader? He said to the leader again, didn't he? So it's like,
yeah.
is he talking about a lead core leader?
Fluoro leader. I'm fishing a weedy lake that allows braided mainline due to the catfish. Would you recommend a fluoro leader or braid straight to the leader? Also, have you ever had the braid cause damage to the rod eyes?
Well, if it's braid straight to the leader, it depends if you talk about. So yeah, you could use a fluorocarbon leader, and I have done so. But I've done that specifically to protect the fish's flank rather than to pin it down, just to have that nice smooth mono against the fish's flanks. Or you could, if you were going to tie a braid to a lead core leader, there wouldn't be any need for a fluorocarbon leader. So they're the two options.
Yeah.
If there's no more questions, we should.
No, we've got two more. I've got two more. Two more.
Draw the.
Yeah, we'll do those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be keeping them. Taking two bundles to France.
Yeah. We might need it. Well, we're not allowed, are we?
No.
So Peter has asked, do you have any preference on spark liquid or goo? Which would be your go-to? Smart liquid or goo?
I think personally, for different things, I use the goos myself on hook baits, the thinner ones, the Supremes. I've got a lot of confidence in the squid one. Caught on a pineapple. I've caught on loads of them, but my preference for the goo is to use the Supremes and to use it on hook baits and not to use it on my feed. So I don't think of goo as food. I think of it as something that alerts the fish to the bait, like an attractor. Whereas I think of smart liquid as a liquid food, something that you add to your feed that stimulates the fish into eating. So I would separate them like that. One's for your hook bait to alert the fish to it, and the other is to have sort of up and down things going on off, like the smart liquid sort of traits, what it does, coming off your feed.
So apparently,
give him a tub of pop-ups. That's a nice
question.
Oh,
now you're testing me. I don't know who that was because I'll explain. Yeah. If that was you and did that question, email info@CarpFix and we'll sort you out. What was the question about? Just so I know.
It's about the goo and the.
That was Peter again.
Was it?
Peter, you got 2 pots.
Well, this Peter.
Yeah, Peter Cockle. Yeah.
He's just going to keep.
That's fine. I mean, there's no drama sending 2, is there?
Yeah.
What I was going to say is, so I'm testing the beta version of this app, so I'm not seeing all the questions. Chloe has just messaged me saying there's loads. So we've got about another 40 questions.
Good.
That
I was thinking, we must be boring people to tears.
No, we got loads of questions, right. But I've just got to find them. Okay. Brandon Fraser. Did you come to South Africa?
Brandon Fraser?
Yeah, from South Africa. Did you come Monster Carp South Africa? No. He was out there and he's wanted a shout out, so. Martin Hall has asked, when you get a run, do you strike or lift into the fish?
I never strike. The whole purpose of the bait being off the hook in carp fishing and is if you get an indication on your rod, the hook point has already taken a purchase hold in the fish's mouth, and it's just a case of tightening into them and setting the hook. It's not like pike fishing when you've got treble hooks and the fish is not hooked when you get the bite and then you set the hooks. The fish is already hooked, so there's no need to strike. I don't like to see it. It's not ideal.
Yeah. James has asked, Darrell, do you ever use a pop-up in a solid bag rig or always use a wafter? If you do use a pop-up, can you recommend a good white one?
Oh, these are made as a special recipe.
James Samkin, yeah, you won us over there with that
one. No, I've never fished a pop-up in a solid bag, and you could do, but I just don't see any need. You know, the bait is the pulling factor, and yeah, it just needs to be semi-buoyant so it flies in the fish's mouth easily. You could do it. I'm not saying you couldn't. And I'm sure. I think Spooner's done it, but yeah, it's not something that I've done. I'm not saying it wouldn't work. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I don't think it'll catch you any more fish.
Right, I've got loads of questions here, by the way.
Perfect.
I'm just going to have to try and find one that we haven't done because they're a little bit mixed up. So just bear with me. Right, here we go. Stefan has asked, how would you approach a typical, in brackets, German gravel pit with nothing more than a few plateaus? Everyone places their rigs near the plateaus and the big ones don't come out often. Is it worth a pre-bait to a deep water around 16 metres? Any tips?
16 metres?
Yeah, he must be fishing like
proper lake. He's obviously talking about a serious
lake.
Generally, all of my fishing is, you know, I spot features and I think, cool, that looks like a good spot, and I visual spots I'm taking notice of. But really, what I really want to know is what the fish are doing. You know, they show me where they want to be by looking for them, and at certain times of year, I'll get a feeling for deeper areas, shallow areas, or whatever it is. And I judge all of my decision making around the fish's behaviour, what they're tending to do. So if I'm fishing a lake regularly, I'm building a picture of where they're getting, and then when they're getting in certain areas, I'm asking myself, why are they getting in those certain areas? And once I cotton on and I sort of zone in onto those things, that's when it really starts coming together. So, you know, what you'll find on a lake that's got big plateaus, like you say, all the anglers will be drawn to the plateaus, but the fish, they'll only tolerate being fished for so long, and they do push away from angling pressure. So if certain swims or certain spots are getting overfished, then that goes into my mind as well. Pre-baiting is something that in the UK we find really hard to do because of how busy the lakes are. You know, the bait doesn't get a chance to rest in the water and the fish free time to eat it a lot of the time. But if you can pre-bait and your bait can sit in the water unfished over, brilliant, great, yeah, I'm sure that'll work. But the single biggest thing that will stand you head and shoulders above everyone else is being able to consistently locate the fish, and then piecing the pieces of the puzzle of why they're in that area at that time. Is it because the wind's blowing there? Is it because the wind's not blowing there? Is it because it's deep water? Is it because it's weedy? You know, ask yourself the questions when you do find the fish, and that will help you later on when you can't find them.
Great. Nathan has asked, if you could only ever use 3 rigs for the rest of your life, what rigs would they be and why?
Easy.
Go on then.
Zig rig, hinge stiff rig, combi multi-rig. Done.
Can you give us a very brief overview on why each one? When you would use them?
Stiff hinge, when I'm fishing pop-ups and chucking over unknown ground with the bead pushed up the leg core, fishing for drops. You know, if I can get a drop where the fish are, then I'm confident that it's presented over the top with a visual bait popped off the bottom. If it's in amongst the fish can suddenly be aware of it. You've got a chance of catching one. The combi multi-rig is a great one when you're plumbing up clear spots. You're confident it's clear. Fishing with wafters, it kicks away from the lead. The hook to land ratio on it is amazing. It's very versatile. You can fish it with boilies, plastic corn, tiger nuts, so many different hook baits, maggots, whatever it may be. So that would be my sort of wafter rig on clear spots, and then zig rig for when the fish are off the bottom.
Have we got some of these for next week?
Might have.
Are we taking them?
Might have.
Right.
We better catch some fish on them, haven't we?
Well, I'll take a pot.
Yeah.
I haven't got any.
Haven't you?
No.
Scott's getting excited.
Best not.
Did he get a tub, mate, for 3 rigs? That was a good question.
Nathan, yeah.
That was a good question.
Nathan, I haven't got your surname, and I can't see what your surname is on this system I'm using, so please email info@carpfix.tv, and I will make sure we get some to you. I did have one here. Shane has asked, best knot for when using braid, so it's 0.06 mil braid.
Yeah.
And tying to leg core.
What? Sorry. You're going to be tying 0.06
That's what he says.
Wow.
Would you do that?
Well, generally...
He's put etc. So what knot would you use for...
If he was going to tie it to that, you would probably just tie a grinner to the top of the lead core to the loop. You'd tie it directly to the loop. But generally, in my opinion, if you're using a braid that thin, you would be tying it to a shock leader and then to the leg core leader. So if I was using 0.06mm braid, I would tie a Marhin knot. You see it on YouTube, really easy to find. Marhin knot from the braid to the leader, the braided leader, and then from there again a grinner knot from the thicker braid to the leg core.
Cool. Nice. Jack Reed said, to clarify, I'm not the Jack Reed from ESP. Thanks for answering my question.
It's
Love
not
the
Jack
content.
Reacher.
No, it's Jack Reed.
Yeah, Jack Reed. Yeah.
Okay. Minty has asked, fishing the noodle rig, would you use coated braid or can you use fluoro?
Never used it. I would guess, looking at it, it'd be better with a coated braid fish combi style than with fluoro.
All right, here we go. So Brandon's had wanted a shout out. All I could see on the app version I'm using is shout out from South Africa. He's actually asked a question, which I didn't see.
Right, okay.
So he's asked, I've started fishing a small lake with 2 swims. Not many carp, but it does hold some seriously big carp.
Tickets, please.
Yeah, yeah. I have actually. I do not regularly, but I have spoken to Brandon a few times. Yeah. I've always said to him, I want to come back over there because it'd be wicked to go there. And
what's the question?
So he says, I've started fishing a small lake with 2 swims, not many carp, but it does hold some seriously big carp. They seem to be scared of any boat activity, so I'll be casting on the next trip. They're currently big time on naturals, so we're trying to get them onto our baits. So basically, we're fishing for carp, which are scared of any interruption and feed mostly on naturals. How would you approach this venue?
You know, often my opening line of attack is always to cast bright pop-ups towards. You'll be surprised, even very, very, very unpressured fish that have never seen bait, you know, a bright pop-up still catches them, you know, because they, what's that? You know, that going back to what I said earlier in this live, you know, they only have to be aware of it to want to sample it and put it in their mouth. So fishing directly to where they're jumping with single cast, not bombing it up with bright pop-ups on rigs that present over most terrains, fishing for drops is a great opening line of attack. And with regard to baits, you know, fish like, you know, tiger nuts, maize are brilliant cheap baits to feed and get those sort of fish on.
Brandon knows what he's doing. He'll catch them. Send us a picture when you do, Brandon.
Yeah. Send us a ticket.
Yeah. So yeah, send it. We'll happily come over. Darren has asked, hi Darrell and Scott, if fishing a weedy water and the fish don't like leads, would you recommend a chod rig for fishing a single?
Say again.
So if fishing a weedy water and the fish don't like leads, would you recommend a chod rig for fishing a single?
You can fish a chod rig over weed in it, if they don't like leads. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
But again, it's very dependent on the type of weed. You can't really be casting chod rigs into grassy type weed because it just doesn't sit.
It could just catch on it or something.
Yeah, it's all not. Yeah, it's not correct.
Carlos has asked, hello Darrell and Scott, do you have any plan to fish in Spain and what's the cause of hook pulls?
Hook pulls are generally the result of poor hook placement in the fish's mouth. Different patterns of hook tend to be more prone to hook pulls, and different sizes in certain patterns and on certain rigs. You know, there's lots of variation. One of the common misconceptions, in my opinion, like this is only my opinion, but when people say get them bang centre on the bottom lip, put your finger in the bottom bang centre of the bottom lip. It's all bony in there. It's in my opinion one of the hardest places to get a really good hook hold, especially like once you're 10 or 15 mil back in that bit, it's really bony there. So a poor hook placement can be one of the biggest causes of hook pulls. And what was the other part of the question?
It was, do you have any plan on fishing in Spain?
Yes, you know, Oriana, we were supposed to go there in March, but obviously COVID made it very difficult. Oriana is definitely on my radar, but it's a long way from where we are, and to go there and film, you know, realistically we'd need 2 weeks. So it's on the radar. It's going to happen when, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Thomas has asked, evening lads, any tips or tricks how to fish fast and effectively PVA bags on a venue with a leader ban, where any kind of leader is said. PVA bag stems aren't allowed and tubing must be used all the time.
Ugh.
Fish don't like spodding, so bags are really effective but time consuming. Any advice? I mean, this might be a question for a match style angler. I don't know if
so having a spare rod set up.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know, if it's a 3-rod rule, you have your fourth rod rigged up with a bag ready to go, so that you've always got one. If it's a 2-rod rule, and you can have 2 rods ready to go if you've got that many rods. But if you can't use leaders and you can't loop to loop on, then other than a method feeder, I don't know how you could speed that up.
Yeah. Good shout though. Using a spare rod.
Yeah.
Use 2-3 spare rods.
Yeah. It's brilliant when they're just ready to go. Solid bags are brilliant when you've got loads of them. They're annoying when you need to tie one at 3 o'clock in the morning after a bream.
Right, we'll do a few more questions because it's getting 20 past.
Should we do the draw? Should we do the draw for the last 2 bits?
We can do, yeah.
And then we can answer a couple
there's
more
no...
questions.
let me go on to
People
here.
want the free stuff, don't they?
Yeah. So far we've got Bradley Strong, Brian Dixon and Callum Tannock have all won. So you'll see on the screen now there's a little box with Callum's name in, who won previously. So we've got 2 more bundles to go. So you want to give us a little rundown of the next one?
Yeah, this is a 5 kilos of 15mm amino ester shelf life boilies, 500 grams of the amino ester prep powder, 500ml of the hemp oil, amino ester active liquid food, 15ml amino ester pop-ups, and 15ml amino ester hard salt cured hook baits.
Cool. Right, let's go. Joshua Taylor is the next winner.
Joshua Taylor.
Yeah. And then the last one the
last one is exactly the same bundle as the previous one, but 18ml rather than 15ml boilies.
Right, okay. Right, we're ready?
Yep.
Lewis Power Stannard.
Lewis Power Stannard as one word?
No, I think he's just probably...
It's like a handle.
I think so.
Stannard.
Yeah, like Craig Stannard.
Yeah. Lewis Power Stannard.
Yeah. Cool. 500 winners, and give him a little mention again for this month. What we've got as a little
okay. So
hold those little rascal. Well,
this little rascal.
You get a spare spool as well, which is worth noting. Nice.
Keep them.
Shut up.
Right. So this month, everyone who is an active member on the last day of August will automatically be entered into our monthly free prize draw and stand the chance of winning a set.
Hold them this side.
3 of these.
Not in front of your face. That's it.
Sorry, is that better?
There you go. Good.
Yeah, 3 of these. Daiwa Bezier SCW QDs. The best of the best. Lovely bit of kit. And good luck to one and all.
Yep. Right, let's have a little look on here.
We've got 3 tubs of pop-ups to give away, so we could do 3 quick questions, couldn't we?
Okay. I'll try and find one. It's all a bit messy on here tonight. Mickey has asked, what's the funniest thing you've seen on the bank fishing, whether it's to do with fishing or public, etc.?
The funniest thing. I remember when I first started at Corder, I went to do a tuition at a lake in Kent called, I can't remember if it's Broadlands or something. Broad Oaks?
There's Broadlands, but it's not in Kent.
No, this was in Kent.
Yeah.
It was a park lake. And we packed up after this tuition at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we walked past this guy that was stood in his pants wrapped with a duvet rather than a sleeping bag, and he'd obviously done a bit too much of some some sort of substance or something, and he was pulling some funny faces and talking absolute nonsense. That was pretty funny.
It's not really funny, but it was an experience at the time. I've got a couple, but one of them is when we were in Austria filming Monster Kart, which you were on.
Yeah.
When I was with Darrell, with Ali.
Yeah.
Filming with him. Made the cut actually. This little scene. Early in the morning, he got a run. I think there were loads of you came round, but he was. Already I was holding the camera and holding his rod, so effectively I caught the fish.
Yeah.
But I was holding the camera and the rod and just watching him pretty much drown. It was like, it wasn't funny, but it was like a very memorable thing for me.
I do sort of remember the lake was really warm.
Yeah. Terry Lord has asked, "Hi guys, he's watching from the bank. My question is, I'm not sure if fishing the tight lines, he's put right lines, tight lines or slack lines is venue specific or dependent on conditions or a personal preference. So when
it's all of them. It's all of them.
Go on.
For example, on a big deep lake, if you're fishing at long range, the undertow will be so much that there's no point in fishing slack because the line just carries on getting tighter and tighter and tighter. If you're fishing in the edge, there's no point in fishing really tight lines, because your line's going to be zinging down off the spot, and you're always going to get a positive outward run. So you might as well fish semi-slack. So there's lots of different variations. It'd be difficult to answer every single one because it's very situation specific.
Okay, last one is from Daniel Todd, who's asked, "I'm fishing a weedy gravel pit, and one swim in particular has been doing me well, but it's tight, and quite often I'm picking up the other lines during the fight.
Yeah.
Would you consider backleads in a weedy lake? Tight lines or slack lines? The spot's only 13 wraps. So very close."
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. When you're fishing in a weedy situation, your line's it's just not going to be on the bottom. And when the fish kite, inevitably they're going to go through the line. I would say in that situation, less rods or more. Just if you've got rods that just aren't producing fish but are continually getting wiped out by other rods, move that rod away. Like if it has to be in the water, keep it out of the way somewhere else. And if you've got a hot spot, don't invade the hot spot with other lines if they're not going to produce takes themselves. So you could use backleads, but I found the trouble with a backlead is once a fish picks the line up, if you say the backlead will be down there, the line's going up. Once the fish picks up that line, there's no recovery. You can't lift up the rod and let it go underneath, or vice versa. Yeah. Backleads are good in flat bottom situations, but in a weed, they'll probably cause you more trouble than actually helping you.
Yeah. A few people have last little note is a few people have asked about merchandise. We do have some available. If you go to CarpFix.shop, it's on there. The shirts that we're both wearing are very limited stock in certain sizes. We will get a restock at some point. So if you have a little look on there, there's a few things still available. But for now, we're going to go fishing.
Go France.
Literally, what your sign says next to you, gone fishing. That's what on the other side. That's it.
Gone fishing.
That's what we're doing.
Going fishing.
Yeah. So we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, ladies and gents, and we'll see you shortly.